Yeah, and from my interesting perspective, because I'm not only the director of the School of Journalism in Ukrainian Catholic University and vice dean of the Faculty of the Social Science, I'm also the priest. And from my point of view, it was very interesting to think about the values as a future trend in media and journalism. And especially in this giving some new perspective to the communication and journalism all around the world. So to be, it could be like on the top and on the top of something that is truthfulness. And why truthfulness? Because like in this case of the Ukraine, when all around the world, every country and basically the Western country support us, it was very good message how the communication and especially the storytelling about the situation that is going in Ukraine move on the people, and how this like story and catchy story goes around different media. And it was something unusual that more than 1 month the topic of the Ukraine and war in Ukraine was on the headlines of basically all biggest media, as New York Times, The Guardian, and so on. And even until now, you can find in New York Times 1 or 2 articles, not every day but every week, about the situation in Ukraine and some analytical information what is going on here. So the truthfulness and not imaging new stories and more powerful stories that we have and dramatical stories that we have probably make a connection with the Western civilization and Western values. And we create like in our school, we create like the small student research, how like very simple thing as Google, like Google search, and also the Yandex search is one of the Russian search websites. How they show up the information that is about the war in Ukraine, and especially the most powerful and most questionable point of this war. And we at that period we took the Mariupol and the total bombing and wiped out of civilians and everything, and how it show up in different countries only through using the VPN and going through the Google and Yandex. I'm sorry, you will see the Ukrainian some kind of text, but you could find with a link I will share you with, or you can also find it out in my presentation they send out to the organization and translate into your language without any problem. So we published this on one of the most popular and most important media in Ukraine, Text ORQA. They profile on the analytic. So we find out that in Moscow, basically in the top 5, you will find Russia Today information, and then goes down the information video from Deutsche Welle, and some kind of also entering the Ukrainian media in Ukrainian language. So we are also producing the news and the materials and everything in Russian language, and they didn't show up in Google or any other search platform. The most objective, I can say, and the most country in the middle with transparent information was Switzerland, and especially like the VPN on the Zurich. So they show up, and in this like first five, the information, the English information from BBC News, and also some information from like Wikipedia and encyclopedia, what is the city about, but not so many information what is going on in Mariupol. So basically the main source was BBC News. And the most dramatical thing was the Brazil. And until today, we know that the Brazil don't take part any sanction against Russia. And there you can't find any information about the war in Ukraine. And also I have like the personal connections with my colleagues who are living in Brazil, and we had some kind of the meetings with different universities and the colleges with the students through Zoom and Google Meet, and they basically don't know anything about the war in Ukraine and what is going on, what are the motives, what is the geopolitical situation in Europe, and so on. So the Brazil until today don't have any kind of information in Portuguese about the war in Ukraine. And how this like different perspectives give the trend for the journalism, especially journalism as a profession in Ukraine, because probably all around the world this interest in the profession of the journalism goes down with all the problems that we have in journalism, and our like profession and our thoughts about the future future person that will be interested in our program, especially in journalism and communication. It's more about the PR and advertisement. So basically the last year was going down the interest to the journalism profession, and at the end of the story now we have the 5% increasing, and probably it will go up and up, because I'm talking directly about the master program, and we can see that on the bachelor level this interest is even higher. So the second thing is simplicity as a value for the future. And the COVID and especially the war forced Ukrainian to get this very simple information in very simple way. And I have the two examples, the Kyiv Independent and also Svidomi, is like consciousness in English. And this Svidomi media was founded by one of now of our alumni, and they, thanks to war and direct and very clear and understandable communication, and also this is very important, the presence in Instagram. So the main channel, the main communication thing was through Instagram. They take more than 2,100 people in 3 months without any advertisement, without nothing. So, and also about 50,100 people who they launch English language page on Instagram, and they like in 2 months received the 50,100 people. And the Kyiv Independent also received more than 3,100 people in first months of the war. And they they key for this kind of enormous enormous followers in very short time was the Telegram channel and communications through the social media. So basically the Instagram. And in Ukraine, we have the numbers that basically 66% of the people are receiving the information and receiving the news through the traditional media, the TV channels. And at least there were the numbers of the last year, and only more about 17% are using the Telegram and other like social messengers to receiving the news and basic information what is going on in the world. And now these numbers were changed dramatically, and the main platform for the news become the Telegram. It's one of the messengers, and basically the 44% are using it for receiving the news today. And in Ukraine, we have a very interesting and probably scary picture, because the main business model for our traditional Ukrainian media, like on TV channels, was an advertisement. And from the first days of the war, the advertisement goes down, and until today, you wouldn't find any advertisement on traditional like TV channels. And some kind of debate on the public, they're talking that they have money only, like the hugest consortium and productions and TV channels, they have money only for 2 next months to live in, and probably they will have a need to ask for the money not only from the donors and grants, but also from the government. And we have only one channel that is public channel that is going like in stable way, but others are going down. So we could receive the situation when the TV as a traditional and most powerful media will go down in Ukraine, and we have like some futuristical thing that more and more people are receiving the information, especially the news from Telegram, from Messenger, and on this base, as truthfulness and simplicity, we also create some web page, and the platform we are calling it Post to Stop the War is also the product of Ukrainian Catholic University, and we create short media messages in 47 languages, and we are trying through this very short messages and different languages and contexts and everything to explain the world what is going on in Ukraine. So I will give you like very short example that, for example, for the Mexico or Mexico, we were using the example of the taxes, how for the Mexico, like the situation with United States and confronting with the United States 200 years ago was very close to our situation that we have in nowadays. And for different like contexts, different countries and different languages, we were trying to find out something from the history and something from like past things, and basically on the knowledge of what is learning in like school program to explain what is going on in Ukraine and why this war is going on and what does it mean for the future. And the last point, because we are talking about this necessity of the media literacy, I can share my personal story about my mother. She's 60 years old. She wasn't learning in any like high schools or this kind of like higher education in university and everything, but she is using now the Telegram basically and Facebook as a main source of the information. And a couple of days ago, through these different channels and media, someone was spreading the information about the numbers of the victims of the war, and it was very close to the Russian narratives. And my mother, who are not that like with a higher education and university background, she was asking me the key question: who is the creator of this information? Who is the author of the information? So I was interested in how this media literacy question is moving on in Ukraine, and we have one of the NGO, Detector Media, and they every year are creating this kind of sociological question and information of the media literacy level in Ukraine. And we can find out that every year, basically the 4% of the people are feeling themselves as more media, media educated. So we have different programs, and we have a lot of stuff for the media literacy, but basically it's not a very huge number, like 4% in the year. But it also the question for the future: if this the numbers of the people who are using basically the Facebook and Telegram as a main source of information, and the numbers changed from like 17% to 44% who are receiving the information from messengers, how we could enter into this field and how we could help the people to become more media educated. And this is some kind of the question that I am pulling in also for maybe for the future and the future speakers on this panel. And as this line underline my speech, I can say that in Ukrainian Catholic University from the early beginning of the war, we did a lot. So in first months, I met 124 journalists all around the world, providing the information what is going on. And some of them were my friends, and some of them become my friends. So I'm very grateful for the Leeds University to invite me for this meeting. And thank you for all your support for Ukraine, and also for this kind of discussion of the future of our common interest and common profession. Thank you.